And now I'd like to open this meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Jared.
I am very grateful tonight for Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, and God, and every single worker that made this church possible, all the way up to those here right now. If for any reason the church wasn't here when I needed it, I have no idea what I would have done. It is humbling to think about how many people it took to make this happen, each working, watching, and praying every day for much of their lives. I also feel empowered by this because I realize that each of us, in our own way, are here to keep this church going according to God's direction. That is an amazing position to be placed in, and I am grateful for whatever chance I have to be useful to God. Thank you. And I also wanted to say, a lot of times when I have to give a testimony, I either feel sick to my stomach or I feel really hot or tired or whatever, and a moment later I feel all better. Tonight I felt like I had a car parked on my chest and I already feel better. So don't let anything stop you from giving a testimony. So thank you.
Amen to that. Thank you. Lillian, go ahead.
A calendar statement from a while back has meant so much to me, and that is, God is sufficient to meet every need, by Albert M. Cheney. There's nothing God can't do. He has perfectly met my needs, not my wants. He comforted and guided me as I drove myself from California back to New Jersey, where I found this independent church. There was also employment met, health needs, and an apartment requirement, and a need for true friends and a purpose for life. These have all been met through God's great love. I am so grateful to God for His good, for this church, for Mrs. Eddy, for giving us this wonderful way of life, and for all the practitioner help I've had along the way as well. And thank you for those wonderful readings.
Thank you. Chardell from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. Several years ago, I developed a pain in my body which required me to make adjustments to certain clothing items. After coming to Plainfield, I began working with a practitioner on gratitude, humility, forgiveness, obedience to God, and not looking to blame a person, place, or thing for any discord. I do not recall exactly when the pain ceased, but it has been quite some time now that my clothes are normal and I am free. Thank you for the readings. Thank you for this church. Thank you to Mary Baker Eddy. Thank you to Plainfield. Thank you.
And thank you. Okay, this is Bruce. I am very grateful for Christian Science, especially here in the Plainfield Church. It has helped me immensely. I was going to our website and reading through the articles that's on our carousel. I figured if I'm going to be announcing it on Wednesdays, I might as well read it myself. No, I do every time. It's wonderful. And there's one article there that really helped me immensely, and it's called Just for Today, and it's by Mary Baker Eddy. And there's one sentence in here that really meant a lot to me, and I'm immensely grateful for. And it goes like this: with a sweet sense of God's nearness, I will know that yesterday has gone and left no bitterness. I guess I learned long ago, whatever's in the past, it's gone. But to think that it would have no bitterness left in me, or do I think back on it and become bitter because of thinking of it, then that's not the godly way. And I'm thinking about Mary Baker Eddy's example. I finished reading biography of her, and it was trouble after trouble, betrayal after betrayal, and yet she writes, "Yesterday's gone, and it leaves no bitterness." And I had nothing like Mary Baker Eddy had to meet. So for me, I went through my thought, how many things in the past would like to leave a little bitterness on me? I thought of countless many, but I disputed each one. I will not be bitter. That experience is gone, and today I will not be bitter because I'm God's image and likeness, and I have a purpose. That is, to live today and obey Him as best I can with all my heart. And with that, there is no bitterness at all, but rather immense joy. So I'm grateful for everything that I'm learning, because it's all good. Tom from Iowa, go ahead.
I'm grateful to God and for practitioner help in Plainfield. I also love the Unity Watches and learning more about that. I'm thankful that us out-of-towners can share our testimonies and participate over the teleconference feature. This church has been truly progressive, and it's been nice to see all the different changes and upgrades that have taken place over the years, especially on the website. This shows to me that Plainfield watches in the little details as well as bigger things, just like Mrs. Eddy did. Also, I've been able to share some things of Christian Science with others who have expressed interest. I have pointed one of them to the Plainfield website. I never really shared it like this with others before. Thank God for Christian Science and for Mary Baker Eddy, who gave it to the world. I don't believe that it was just anyone who could have discovered Christian Science, but that she was anointed by God to do so. Thank you.
Thank you. Elizabeth from Georgia, go ahead.
Thanks for the readings. I've been thinking about principle, one of the synonyms for God, and how grateful I am to see it operating in my life and that of my family. Since attending church at Plainfield and working with a practitioner and listening to services and attending Bible studies and roundtables, I have a better understanding of principle and what it means. See, I used to be a little timid about confronting people about things that bothered me, things that weren't right, that I might let slip by because it was easier to live with human harmony, pacifying things. But this is a false sense of peace built on sand. And step by step, I'm learning to understand that if everything I do is based on principle, I can be assured that I am standing with law, God's law, the only law that has authority, the only law that I need to obey, and thus I have nothing to fear. I feel like I've gotten a backbone. I'm not so worried about what other people think. And the wonderful thing is, it has brought calm and security in my life and in how my husband and I are raising our children, and also in my business. Thank you.
Thank you. Fairley from Maryland, go ahead.
Thank you. And thank you for the readings. I want to express particular gratitude tonight for all the literature available to us at Plainfield, particularly books by early workers in Christian Science, which I understand have been banned by the Mother Church. A couple of Sundays ago, I came downstairs early and began to study and prepare to read the Sunday lesson at our service. But a silent argument began immediately to get at me about something I put away once I found my life at Plainfield. Thoughts began coming in about what might become of me in later years in Washington if left alone without family here. I was led to think about good friends who have already died and others who've gone back to where they came from, because Washington's a very transient city. I gave in to these concerns for a while. but was able to turn my thought to God and proceed with the morning's lesson. At that time, I had not seen the article by Herbert Eustace, The Way Evil Argues, which was offered on our carousel. Eustace points out that the arguments of evil are silent, and an audible argument is more easily refuted than a silent one, since the silent argument may be operating with you when you are least aware of it. Its arguments will be directed especially toward discouraging you. It uses every cunning device to deceive you into believing that you yourself are the originator of your disturbed thinking. Thanks to this article, I recognized that on that Sunday to which I have referred, I had been experiencing an attack of malicious mind, animal magnetism, trying to prevent me from preparing for the Sunday service. This has put me on guard in a way I wasn't before. Eustace's article makes what happened to me perfectly clear, so I am very grateful for it, for all that Plainfield offers, all the support I received there from my practitioner, fellow members, and of course, gratitude to God, to Jesus, and to Mrs. Eddy. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay. A caller from San Francisco. Please go ahead and announce yourself first, and then go ahead with your testimony.
Hi, my name is Pete, and I'm calling from California. And I just wanted to state that I'm very grateful to have found your church, your online presence, and the books in the lending library of really speaking to me and getting my interest back in Christian Science. So I'm very grateful that you guys have a presence. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Peter. We're so glad you found us and our website, and thank you for sharing your testimony tonight. Day from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Since coming to the Plainfield Church, the idea of patiently waiting on God has become new to me, and I've realized that I can never be patient enough. I've learned the importance of waiting for God's timing in all things and waiting for Him to reveal answers to me when I'm truly ready to receive them. This has improved my relationship with others and has been especially helpful when I have a deadline to meet. When I find a deadline quickly approaching and I haven't completed a task, I've learned to continue asking God for the answers, to trust wholeheartedly that He will give me what I need or tell me what I need to know. And most importantly, I've learned to remain calm and keep my thought clear. Then the right answer always comes right on time. I'm so grateful for what I'm learning about trusting God in all things and for the patience I'm gaining by doing so. Thank you so much for tonight's meeting.
And thank you. Gary, go ahead.
I've been listening to the CD that Peter and Faith made because I love it so much. But in one of the songs, there's a statement, part of a statement from Science and Health that I have loved for a long time. And that statement in Science and Health goes something like this: divine truth, life, and love are a law of annihilation to everything unlike themselves, because they declare nothing except God. Well, I am so grateful to have learned here in Plainfield that Christian Science is God's law. And God's law is 100% good, and it is the only law that exists. It has complete control of everything that's real. I have found that Christian Science has healed me of many things, many physical problems, business problems, family problems. and many times with the help of a practitioner in this church. And with each healing, there was a statement of God's law that annihilated what was wrong in my life. It is incredibly comforting to know that no matter what the problem is, there is a law of God that answers it, that takes care of it. I am so grateful for Christian Science as taught and practiced in this church. So grateful for all the help I've received from practitioners in this church. And I want to thank you for the readings tonight.
Thank you.
Go ahead. This church is my family, and they've earned that role over the years. I hear the Bible and Mary Baker Eddy talk about Christ the Rock, and as a parent, so often things come up where I don't quite know what to do, but God always does, and the fact that God's love through church members always makes it easier to grasp and to do. And I thank them again for that. And the hymn on Sunday, Shepherd, Show Me How to Go, was perfect because it, as a parent, you really want direction because you love these little guys and you want to do the right thing. It's not a selfish thing. So I thank Mary Baker Eddy for that wonderful hymn also, and the truth that we are a spiritual being, and no matter what happens, there are no accidents in mind, and those little creatures, or not so little anymore, but they recover, and it's just a bad dream that passes right by them. And there are lessons to learn. They can't learn them any better than God teaching. While I was sitting here earlier, I got a picture of this fire. I wasn't going to say it, but I remember the fire, and we're here, and there's nothing that could touch us because we're just good. But the fire would burn the chaff out of anything else. And just reminded me how great this church is. Anything needs to be burned off gets burned off, but we stay. It leaves the rest, and it's good and beautiful and useful and a blessing. And I thank God for this place and all the lessons, and our dear practitioner that's been a strength.
Thank you. Linda from Pennsylvania, go ahead.
Good evening. I just wanted to quickly express my gratitude for Plainfield and all the wonderful testimonies tonight that encouraged me to get on. I wasn't prepared, but I'm very grateful for some lessons I learned this summer. I was put into situations where I couldn't plan or organize, and that's something that I have been very good at controlling and organizing down to the minute, and it just, I think God needed to put me into some positions where I could not humanly do it so that I could see He can organize better than anything I could even conceive of and meet all the needs for all involved in situations. There was one week where it was just almost impossible to know how we were going to be able to get all the things we needed to get done. And each day I worked with a practitioner, and I held to the 91st Psalm, and I just felt in my heart a simple trust that I had to put it in God's hands. And each time, everything was met perfectly beyond anything I could even imagine. And so I'm just so grateful that I had this church and to teach me the true understanding of Mary Baker Eddy's writings, and to God, and for everything that I'm learning here. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Carol, go ahead.
The air conditioning went off at my place of business this afternoon, and very shortly I came down with a terrific headache. So I prayed and know that God never sends pain. God does not send affliction. God only sends good. And then I remembered something that a practitioner in this church told me many years ago. If you can still do your work for God, you are not sick. And I thought of that. I had been praying for the service every so often during the day, and I thought, I can still do that, and I did, and I just kept supporting this service, knowing that this is the Word of God that's going out, and it's reaching all mankind and making a difference in people's lives. And what a wonderful thing this service is, this church. And the headache got better and better, and I've had the experience before. When I came into the church tonight, it totally left. I am so very grateful. This service and this church does heal. And I've had it happen time and again, and I am so very grateful for it, and very grateful for the readings tonight and for practitioner help that I've been getting. Thank you.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. Tonight I'd like to give gratitude for what I've learned about patience. Most of my healings over the years seemed so long, they took so long. But in it all, I learned and understood what patience meant. Thank you, by the way, for the readings tonight on patience. I learned that to be patient meant working with the truth while expecting to see the good God has for me. It meant that I had to stay consistent with right praying, meaning I had to affirm constantly what God is and know that I am the expression of God. It meant I had to tell myself often that I am spiritual, I am perfect, I am loved by God, and that I had dominion from Him, and to stay joyful whilst I waited. I had to deny the silent suggestions that come that are so fearful sometimes and dominating. And I learned not to doubt God's activity in my life, and not to doubt that there are some things that God can do, or to fear my future. Replacing all the negatives while I waited to see God's goodness made me more convinced in God's healing power. Over several years, the fear that had tormented me for so long was fading, and with that came many, many healings, physical, in so many areas of my life. The readings tonight talked about occupying till I come, to run and not be weary. As I worked, I understood that these meant to stay consistent with God's laws, what He is saying about me. And that has brought a deeper, deeper meaning to me about God's goodness, because God never fails. I thank God for everything I've learned through Christian Science, because it makes life more meaningful and gives a purpose that only God can give. Thank you again for the readings, the hymns, the testimonies, and everything everyone is doing in this church that is bringing other people from all over the world to partake in our feast. Thank you.
Thank you. Sharon, go ahead.
I'm grateful to have learned in this church how to pray. When I came to this church, when I would pray to God, it was more like a plea bargain. I'll do this, I would like this, and if you give me my way, I'll do this for you. And thank God I came to this church and learned how to pray. If you have a need, you ask God, but then you say, not my will, thy will be done. And I just want to say how grateful I am for that, because I realized that things I wanted, if I would have gotten them, it would have been very harmful to me. But God always gives good, and his plan is the right way. I am just so grateful for all I'm learning in Christian Science, the round table, the Bible studies, and practitioner help. Thank God for Mrs. Eddy and this church, and thank you for the readings.
Thank you. Mary?
Tonight I have a few letters to read. The first is a testimony from Germany. I am very grateful for the help of a practitioner and for the other workers at Plainfield in helping me to gain a more honest sense of what Mary Baker Eddy wrote. I thought that I had read Signs and Health, but it was not clear for me. I would read and forget and would try to hold on to an idea such as God is love, without attacking error or animal magnetism or personal sense. I had no real clue what that was all about, and fell into a type of science that had more human tinges. Last night I was working on my individual watch, and I became clear for a moment that as God's child, we are all in our right place. There are no asylum seekers threatening, nor being threatened, because we all live and move and have our being in God. God is much closer to me now. Jesus could forgive the abusive thought that we call Judas. Well, we can too. This was sobering and gave me joy to be grateful for the untiring work of the Plainfield Independent Healers of the World. Thank you all so much. And then California. Dear friends, thank you for all the love sent out from the Plainfield Church. I joined this church because I saw and felt the love and strength of Mrs. Eddy's Real Christian Science being practiced here. And now, years later, it still is reaching out more than ever before. Enclosed is my monthly contribution. And then Iowa. Dear Plainfield, I am pleased with the website, which offers so much content. I love that Andrew Kidd has narrated all of Mrs. Eddy's writings. I'm also grateful for your Unity Watches. We are not alone, for Emmanuel, God is with us. This church has grown so much over many years. Please accept the enclosed check, which is my tithe. God bless us, and thank you all, sincerely. And then Virginia. Dear fellow members, please find enclosed my monthly contribution sent with many thanks for all the inspirational and practical guides to daily living which this church provides. To be able to access the truths found here, put them to use, and be able to solve problems is of very great value. There is a verse in the Bible that I love very much. It has meant a great deal to me. It is in the book of Joel in the 2nd chapter, and it is that the Lord, it says, I, the Lord, will restore the years that the locust hath eaten. Perhaps many of us have had those years, troubling years, perhaps an unhappy marriage, an unsuccessful business, just a time in your life where you felt things weren't going well. Perhaps you took a wrong turn that you regret. Well, in this statement, God is promising that he will restore those years when you turn wholeheartedly to him and change your course. I can remember having many such experiences during my life. One I was thinking of was I had a brother. He wasn't in science, but anyway, for various reasons, we saw very little of each other. And then one day I got the news that he had passed on. It was rather abrupt, and also he really wasn't very old. It was quite a shock to me. And I felt devastated at that moment because I had always thought, well, he and I would reunite sometime and have time together, but I felt like this had now been taken from me. So after I kind of recovered and prayed, first of all, I knew in science we learn that there really is no death, that there is life, and though people pass from our experience, they live on. They are with God, and if we mourn for ourselves. I also knew that he knew that I loved him, and I certainly knew that he loved me, and there could be no separation. And I left it with God, and I got over this sense of feeling that I had lost time with him. Well, years later, it turned out that he has a son, 2 sons actually, but one in particular that God brought into my life and that I have been able to help and spend time with. And I'm so grateful for that. And when it began to happen, and it happened very naturally, it wasn't anything I particularly sought out, I thought, well, God is restoring the years that the locust hath eaten. Perhaps maybe I didn't spend that some time later with my brother as I had wished I could have. But now I was spending time with his son and helping his son. And it was a very wondrous thing. And it was proof that God does restore the years that the locust hath eaten. It might come in different ways, but it will come. And as the reading said tonight, sometimes we need to be patient. But God is a good God, and he loves us. And when we think of these times of trial, sometimes we think how long it just has gone on for so long. Well, when you think that we're going to be here for eternity, those times are really nothing but a flash in the pan. So I would like to conclude. This is from Kimball's Lectures and Articles. Edward Kimball was an early worker who knew Mrs. Eddy well, and he was a lecturer. He spoke on Christian Science, and in those days, he would speak to thousands of people. They couldn't contain them in the churches because there were so many when Mrs. Eddy was here that were hungering for this truth. He says in one of his lectures, "There is no law against you. If you mourn, if you have been cast down because of disease, know this. There positively is no law against you. And moreover, know this still further, that you are entitled to enforce the law of your own life. You are entitled to enforce the law of your own health, of your own prosperity. You can do it. You can learn to do it. It is within the confines, within the divine provision concerning your very life, your daily needs. Be not afraid. You may be a law unto yourself, a law to your recovery from disease, a law to your business, a law of harmony to your welfare and your household, and all things of your life, because God gave man dominion, and you are entitled to it. In this very hour, you are entitled to be a law of recovery to your own self." I thank God for Christian Science. I thank God for this way of life that will meet any need you have. Thank God for Mrs. Eddy for giving it to us. Thank God for our service tonight.
Thank you.